till the intro's done. It's not like you were like blowing your... turn down your phones over there. Oh, my goodness. You try to put some, some effort into this show, and, and these guys just completely undo it. How's it going, everybody? I can't even speak English now. Anyways, go Rays. Finally winning one in the playoff series. Just jumping on the bandwagon here a little late in the playoffs. But, hey, let's keep making pretend St. Petersburg cares about baseball.
Yay!
Thank you so much for watching The Yard Sign, the most important and relevant podcast in politics, specifically Florida politics. I'm Johnny Torres. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in as you have been. We're getting pretty good views considering, we're not really pushing out the show.
Really making this up.
Honestly, I've seen the reports.
Hey, you're not on camera. Hush over there. Thank you so much for being with us. We got quite a bit to talk about, despite that we're a little female handicap today. So no ladies on the show today, but they'll be back next week. We actually have a very special guest next week, because next week is the 14th. So
do you want to tease the week?
Do we? All right, I'll mention towards the end of the show who our special guest is going to be. It's kind of a big deal,
Who's coming?
I'll just say she's kind of a big deal.
Oh, I see.
So we'll tell you a little bit more about that as the show progresses. Being that they won't keep their mouths shut until I introduce them, let's go over to the main desk. And as always, from left to right, we have Anibal Cabrera. How you doing, sir?
Very good. Am I allowed to speak? Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, now you can talk.
Okay.
We're not allowed to talk over the new intro, which is actually fantastic. So thank you, Johnny.
Yes, this is a very
do we
good
have anybody
intro.
else to thank for the new intro? Because now we're official now.
Yeah.
Really, it's pretty official.
This is legit.
Yeah, well, we'd like to thank let's just put it this way, the benefactor who allows us to do this program absolutely free. Let's just put it that way. In case they're watching, they know who they are. But actually, yours truly put that together. I'm pretty proud of myself. I thought I did a pretty good job.
All lies. Fake news?
And that sexy man next to Anibal is Jake Hoffman. How you doing, Jake?
How's it going? I think we have another good show. I think we really are starting to nail this, though. Last week was great. Go back and watch last week's episode, and this week's going to be, I think, just as fun.
This should be, this week should be interesting. It should be fun.
We're going to find out what Anibal wants to ban this week. And so that's how things have been going lately.
It wasn't.
Let me get my lower third, because I am not as sexy as Jake Hoffman. So let me put up my appropriate label here, which I rarely get to do. But let's run through today's topics. Again, headlines. Actually, this one being maybe the most recent headline of the ones we'll be talking about today. Governor Ron Desantis is talking about raising teacher pay. Obviously, Florida being what it is, balanced budget, and having a state legislature. Easier said than done, but he's obviously determined to make this a priority, and he's getting a lot of support from his guys, the legislators that are on his side on this issue. On the House side, haven't heard too much from anyone on the Senate side, but of course is getting a lot of early support, although the Representative Oliva, who's actually the Speaker of the House, said, hold up, buddy. Don't forget, we have a balanced budget amendment, and apparently a lot of Florida's agencies have been asking for budget increases in a total of about $2 billion. So what do you guys think? I think the increase in teacher pay is great. It's a little bit short because it only applies to, I believe, new teachers. It doesn't apply to veteran teachers, and that's where they're getting some pushback from the unions.
Yeah, I think that when I saw this headline today, so this is breaking news. This is rare for us. Usually we break news like 2 weeks later. So
this is 6 hours old.
This is actually pretty new. I saw this and I was like, it jumps us from, if you haven't read or heard just yet, it moves starting teacher salary from, I think it's like $37,000 right now. It'll jump it up or to $47,000, right? Am I getting my numbers right?
Yeah,
Yes.
$47,500, and it would actually make the entry level pay second in the nation.
Second in the nation, yeah. And so that's kind of big time. I mean, we were 46th in the nation or 48th in the nation before that. So it's good. I see the appeal towards raising it a little bit and trying to get people who are talented into our classrooms. And a lot of my opinion on this, as soon as I heard the news, we reached out to all of our teachers.
There's a secret Facebook group.
There's a secret. there are a lot of people in the school system that do not want to be named, and they gave their opinion on this. And I
and
think
it completely switched my opinion of the proposal after reading all of their comments.
Were you were for it, now you're against it?
So I'm for raising teachers' pay, of course, and I'm for us raising the levels and everything else. However, after reading no one is not going into teaching or leaving teaching. Let me say this differently. The majority of reasons why people leave the teaching industry is not because of the pay. It's probably because of the minutia of the bureaucracy and the fact that they have no support amongst administration, and they're not allowed to control the classes that they want to control the way they want to control it.
Yeah, but I do think there's something to be said about attracting people into the career field in the first place, right? So it's like you're coming out of college and you're looking at your options, and teaching might be balanced out a little bit better now. I like the idea. And to me, one of the things that jumped out from one of our insider sources, that what they said was that there's a lot of money that can be allotted to teacher salaries. Like, they could pull that money from a lot of different places if they go and look for it. And I think that increasing to teachers is a great idea. Then let's figure out, and then the question is going to be like, where does that money come from? Where is it getting pulled from pensions? Like, the plan isn't totally out yet, but the idea is good.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a little bit over $600 million right now that would be allocated to increasing teachers' pay. And again, I think it hasn't been ironed out if it's going to be just new teachers or teachers are going to be grandfathered. They're underneath that. That builds a huge resentment if that's not the case when it comes to veteran teachers and teachers that have been going there. Because at the moment, the way it is you get like a $3,000 pay increase every 3 years or somewhere around there. And so you have to earn that increase every single time. So you're telling me now teachers that are coming out of college, people that are coming out of college to become teachers are not having to work as hard to be able to earn. And that's what causes the resentment.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have some problems there.
From the verbiage that he said, he made a comment about, this will help 100,000 teachers. Mm-hmm. From that verbiage alone, I think it means that it's going to be current teachers and future teachers.
Well, it also if you're making less than that, you're going to get bumped up to that. But the problem is your teacher who's been working there for 10 or 15 years and they're making that salary now, and they haven't been for the last 15 or 17 years, right?
So, and that's what's going to cause the resentment within the ranks, and it's going to cause a lot of problems. And again, the amount of things that teachers have to pay for now is astronomical. Again, I like the idea of increasing teachers' pay. I think the way you find it might be figuring out cost-cutting measures within the school system itself, the large administration and bloating, the remodeling of the human resource building before you remodel an actual classroom, which is ridiculous. And so where is the money going? We just got a huge increase in taxes because of schools to get them air conditioning units, which
is ridiculous.
It's absolutely the fact that you can't even.
I think we lost our superintendent this week too.
We did.
Tampa's, I think, looking for a new superintendent right now.
I wouldn't be surprised. It would be Hillsborough County. I think it's an absolute mess.
Sorry. No, I mean he's leaving, but he's leaving at the end of the year.
He's leaving for health reasons, I think.
I don't know about that, but he's leaving. He's leaving at the end of the school year.
Yeah. So I think that this is probably a good thing. I'm for it. I'm for giving them an appropriate salary that entices good people to be in this profession.
I don't think it's salary that's motivating people to become teachers.
I think it does get people into the career. I don't think it's.
I think the love of teaching is what gets people into the career.
But let me tell you from someone who has a few teachers in their lives in their life. What was it?
Nothing.
Johnny, you're speaking.
Keep going. You've met some teachers before. You've had some conversations.
You have definitely met some teachers.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So, anyways, no. Look, I mean, it 37.5 or whatever that minimum salary is right now is below the well below the average cost of living in any major city in Florida. And so, yes, do people typically go into teaching? Of course, they're not going into it for the money. But the sad fact is that a lot of these teachers are having to work 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. On top of the fact that a lot of the schools don't even provide enough resources for the things that they need in terms of supplies. Even with the kids, even bringing in some of their own supplies. I I remember hearing about copy paper shortages, where you basically had an allotment that you were allowed, and then once that allotment ran out, well, you were screwed. You didn't have any more copy paper, to make worksheets from and things like that in the classroom. And statistically, it's been known that teachers will spend on average, I think, somewhere around about $1,000 or more every year on things for their own classroom.
Yeah, and I think what's one of the important things that we need to note here in this conversation is that this is not just like an increase out of nowhere. This is a replacement of the current system, which I don't think anybody is happy with right now. It's like this arbitrary raises based off of point systems, and the point systems don't make a lot of sense, and they can kind of be I mean, no, I don't know anyone. I haven't met anyone that's happy with the current system. That was a Republican initiative a couple years back. But right now, the move to replace that system and replace it with one that is more fair, I guess, to teachers and increase to their pay, that's what we're looking at here. And I think that we're on the right track. We'll see what the end bill looks like when we finally get through. But right now, I think it's a good start.
And then also, just to clarify, the superintendent, Jeff, in June said that he was trying to be for his family. And so we can just say for hell.
It's the typical political answer. No, look, the truth of the matter is that there was a huge turnover, there's a big shift in the school board. I think he's known as someone who does as he's told, whether it be by the union or whether it be by the school board itself. He's not someone who has typically really forged his own way and really taken the leadership as he could have as superintendent. Because there was such a toxic environment prior to the current school board. But getting back to the teacher pay thing, the resentment that's being created now is because your veteran teachers are now going to be making almost as much as an entry-level teacher. So they're going to have to rewrite the books on all this, but I think a lot of that's going to come down on the local districts themselves and on the unions to be able to work out a reasonable pay scale. But to Jake's point, something that's less complicated than what we have now, because it's not only complicated, but it's also not fair. And still, teachers are making way too little money for the amount of work and responsibility that goes into what they do every single day.
And the other thing that I want to point out is, again, like we're moving from like 46th or 48th in the nation in starting salary and jump to second, which is kind of huge. But it's not. We're Florida. There's plenty of people. There's plenty of money in our state. Like, we should be investing in our education and keeping kids here and getting good teachers and things like that.
I don't think that's I think the problem is mismanagement of funds. I think the problem is not the proper priorities when it comes to the funds that are being given to them and given to students and allocating those funds where it's necessary.
I mean, that's a bigger, broader conversation about the school system as a whole. But you're at least going straight to teachers here.
How are you still printing new copies every single year of these textbooks that people are not using anymore? And when it comes to throwing away food that can't be donated because it just causes problems, you weren't even allowed to contract out air conditioner repairs out to the general public.
That is a whole nother conversation. That's mismanagement.
Huge conversations that you're having. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I wasn't going to take shots at the exiting superintendent like Johnny did, but like
that's my style.
I mean, it is what it is. We're going to go there. I think you need someone that's gonna put the administrations on notice and let them know it's not your job. Honestly, the administration is not your job to educate. You leave that to the teachers. Remember, there is a difference between the teachers and the administration. There's always that tug of war. But I think even to the point of the teachers union, how are you allowing our teachers to have to pay a ridiculous amount when it comes to health insurance? I mean, these are the little things that cause teachers to spend money out of their own pocket.
Yeah, and one of the things we were talking about in our secret teacher
I'm sorry,
group.
just to cut it one more. I'm sorry, just to cut the secret. That was always the benefit of those kind of. You're going into public service, you're going to go teach, you're going to do everything else. You're not going to get paid that much, but the benefits are going to be great. Yeah. So that's why you went into it. How on earth are you, what I think it's maternity leave is like 6 weeks. And in an industry that's predominantly women, how is that possible? Who is not looking to, like, what are you doing when you can't tell me that maternity leave is only 6 weeks for teachers?
Well, and as someone who had to go through that, because my daughter's mom is a teacher, and she had such little parental leave that she ended up, luckily, my daughter's birth fell along the holidays, so that helped some. But then there's a lot of teachers who have to take medical leave basically, to account for the parental leave that they actually want to take, because the parental leave is nowhere near sufficient.
I'm astonished that an industry that is predicated on that the majority of their employees are female don't have I would think one of the best kind of
I'm
rules
not astonished
within their
that
unit,
the
within
public
the
school
union.
system
that's a whole nother conversation.
doesn't really actually
What?
this giant bureaucratic mess is not managing their employees and systems and administration well, and I can't.
Well, and I realize that we're in a Republican-led state, thankfully, right? So the unions aren't the strongest, but man, are they horrible.
Oh, they
I mean,
are.
how have they not negotiated this into the contracts? Being that they do have so much other leeway, where you can actually keep terrible teachers in the classroom. Meanwhile, there's great teachers being tossed out because of these ridiculous, tests and different scoring systems and measurements that they have in place.
Yeah.
But they couldn't figure out parental leave into a contract. It makes no sense.
And the last thing I'll say about this topic is that what a job again that Ron DeSantis is doing, just bringing the entire state together. I mean, and tackling issues that are bipartisan. I mean, again, he's going after education, after the environment. I mean, things that should not be one side or another.
Yeah.
And he's got the highest approval rating in like decades now.
Do we think what he's proposing is going to come into fruition? I don't think so, and maybe not to the extent that he's wanting it, but it does start the conversation where it needs to go. It gives leeway to our county commissioners and to our school board of where it needs to move that conversation, because we do have very good and I can say like Republican-leaning school board members that I know I can have a conversation with, and it's not going to be where they just stonewall me. No, they genuinely want to have conversations. They genuinely want to have discussions, and I know that if I want to have a phone call or you need to have a phone call with them, they'll answer the question. Whereas with some others, we don't have that kind of response.
Yeah. I think each individual county and city, their school boards are just so vastly different.
Why do you keep on saying city?
Well, I'm just saying that between all of these different, major areas
Cities don't
of
run
our
school
state.
boards.
Just all right.
Are you even from Florida, Jake? Let's answer. Let's ask the real question.
Go here.
This is the ban conversation all over again, guys. If you didn't, the wording.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're trying to reopen a wound here.
Yeah, that's right. They
I
are trying to ban
apologize.
vaping. Thank
we
you.
make a comment that is disparaging to you. We have to reopen other wounds.
We're thinking about putting a tracker up of how many wins each one of us gets on some of these arguments.
Because that's healthy.
I absolutely. It's what all of the therapists would recommend for our
now
relationships.
that we're talking about therapy and everything else, let's talk about the
Impeachment.
No,
I was
where
are you going with
I
this
was
one?
going to go with Port Richey dissolvement.
No, let's no.
Okay,
I wanted
you
to.
can
We're
leave
gonna
it.
save that for last. It's like we're gonna lose it. Like honestly, I mean, there's maybe 100 people that truly care about what's happening in Port Richey.
I know.
I mean,
Here's a better
it's-
one. There's only about 100 people with internet access in Port Richey. Honestly, I Googled it. I couldn't find it. I was like, is it New Port Richey or Port
Well, that's why
Richey?
they had to make a new Port Richey, because apparently the old Port Richey nobody cared about.
So we've officially isolated that part of the county and that part of it. All right. So I guess we're going to skip over that for right now.
Yeah, we
and
can
we'll move
definitely
into
circle back.
national
If
news.
only there were Pasco County young Republicans that we could have brought in. Oh,
Deep
no, those are real nice guys. I don't know what happened to that club.
Yeah.
Anyways, in other news,
In other news, the president's getting possibly impeached.
In other news, day 990 of impeachment gates. They've been trying to impeach that man since the beginning.
that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
It's been 2 years and 260 days. When is this going to stop? Until he wins another election? And if he wins a second election, they're going to keep on going.
Yeah, you're watching an impeachment happen for a full 8
We've
years.
literally been watching impeachment.
You're going to watch it for a full 8 years, I think.
They're-
I mean,
Look,
that's a sitcom that can now go into rotation.
If you look at what's been happening legislatively, right? There's been a whole bunch of stuff that has gotten pushed through the House, and all of it has been stopped by the Senate. That is exactly what's going to happen with this impeachment. There's not going to be an impeachment of the president. They don't have the votes to do it, and so
They don't have the balls
and they don't
to
even
do
have
it.
the evidence
Yeah.
to pull it off.
They don't have anything to do it. Nancy Pelosi makes a comment that she is, and if you think she opened impeachment process when she did that big speech,
Yeah.
and then you come to realize she didn't do She didn't do jack.
This is a family
Whoa.
show.
She didn't do anything. The only thing she did was have a press conference, and you could tell on her face that she did not want to be there.
No.
And of course, she does it the day before they even release the transcripts. So like, she's basically just like eating air at that moment, and then we all get to read what was said.
Johnny, cue up the baby eating.
Eating of the baby.
Can you cue that up for us?
And so now every Democrat has egg on their face. What was it? Adam Shifty has Shifty.
There.
Swipey, no swipey.
There's he's got a couple of funny names, like Pencil Neck was a couple years ago, his Pencil Neck shift. The impeachment thing, it is what it is. I mean, now this week, as far as like breaking news goes, there's a second, third whistleblower.
There's a second whistleblower.
Yeah.
But how are you a whistleblower when we have the transcripts of what was said?
I guess, are you technically a whistleblower if somebody already else blew a whistle?
Were you? Did the whistle did the whistle make a noise?
Did the whistle? Yeah. At this point, it's one of those things that you're starting to see. It's like, well, if one accusation isn't strong enough, you're starting to see the second and the third and the fourth accusations kind of come in there.
We've kind of seen this before with the Kavanaugh situation.
Yeah, I mean, they shouldn't be the same, but it feels the same.
But it looks like the same MO. Like, if one doesn't make it, then we'll put another one, and then we'll find another one.
Yeah.
Like, the bench. How many whistleblowers are there going to be? How many people are on this call? Like 57 people on this call. We're going to have 27 whistleblowers on the same. That's why I don't understand. How do you have a second whistleblower for something that we all are? Like, we read it last week. I don't understand.
Yeah.
But again, all they're trying to do is influence the election. That's all they're trying to do. They're trying to move voters.
Well, they're doing.
And
a
if they
great
bring
job
into question,
they're doing.
If they bring into question the legitimacy of his election or even his presidency, then they could potentially move enough votes to win this thing. But they still have to produce a viable candidate, which they haven't.
And the other thing too is that I think that Trump just set like another record for fundraising.
120
in the third quarter.
Million.
I mean, it's doing exactly the opposite of what you tried to accomplish. Like, if you're trying to impeach the man, like, impeach him, start the process, and hope you make a good argument.
But that's the argument.
Don't do this back and forth, like possible whatever is going on right now for the past, I don't know, year since the whole Russia thing came to a halt. This has kind of started to pick back up now with the impeachment talks. And again, you just go for it, or let us like not hear about it anymore.
And that's never going to happen. They're never going to let this go because they thought the Mueller report was going to be their big hit, and nothing happened with that. And then they're trying with Russia, and then they're trying with Ukraine, and nothing is sticking to him. And again, if there was something solid, and we said this in the beginning, if there was a quid pro quo in that conversation, then yes, let's start impeachment inquiries immediately. Yeah. However, and that's the thing, this isn't a Richard Nixon situation where you literally have tape of him ordering it, or a Bill Clinton with the dress.
Well, you have tape, you have a transcript, you have a call, and you read it over and over again, and it doesn't get any worse.
It doesn't get any worse. And so I think what's going to happen is we're going to have another 200 and something days of Kabuki theater. It's going to destroy the
references.
Why is Kabuki theater such a thing?
You and your turn. Nothing. Go ahead.
Keep moving.
It's a funny quote. Anyway,
Anibalisms.
I fit my word in for the day.
Yeah.
So it's just going to continue. I do love the new energy of who's the New York mayor.
Do you love it?
Giuliani. I love Giuliani and just him just like pissing people off all over the internet. And he's just like, I don't care. I'm 97. I could die any day. So I'm just going to piss everyone off.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that I said this last week on the podcast, is that's the one part of all of this that I don't really like, is the fact that the president's personal lawyer is involved with something when he's not assigned to any sort of actual government position. So that's the part of me that kind of stinks about all of it. And I think that take that out of it.
But if you would have read and I agree with you on that part.
Yeah.
But if it would have just had been starting now with Giuliani, that's one thing, and I would be a little upset about that. However, he has been dealing with the background of this since like March of this year, and earlier than that, trying to get documentation, what happened in 2016, why wasn't the information that the Ukrainians had in regards to what happened in 2016's election weren't given to the the Department of Justice,
yeah.
the DOJ. So like these are the questions that need to be answered, and I think he's gonna be able to lay that out the best way he's gonna be able to. And that's another form of this. But I love that Trump is punching back. I don't think any other
has he ever like pulled punches?
But that's the thing.
in the past?
What Republican president would have not punched back?
Well, I don't think any president in his recent history has punches back in the same way. I mean, he's out on Twitter. He posted the Nickelback song. That is okay. I'm like, you look at that and you're like, our president is out there memeing with the best of them right now. Like I will tell you right now,
there needs to be an award.
And then they got mad.
Yes.
They got really mad and they had to remove it. Actually, he had to remove it. They had to remove it
and
because
it's so crazy. And so this might
saw a
lead
600% spike.
Mad? Who got
Nickelback.
Mad?
Oh. No, Twitter was the one that got them.
No,
but
Nickelback was the one. They came out. They're really upset that they used the song, and
because it hasn't been used a million times.
They were really upset that it was used in this sort of way, and then they went and they complained. They have the right. It's a copyright or whatever. And so they had that video is no longer available, but it is definitely available.
And I think you're right, Johnny. I think it's the fact that you try to remove it from the internet means that it's
everywhere. Yeah.
It's everywhere. But I think you're right, Johnny. It's never going to pass the Senate. The House is probably not going to do it because there's about 30 seats that are in jeopardy in Democrat seats, Democrat districts that the president won. So that's why he wants the vote. He wants the vote so that he can pounce on all of those people and then win the House, and then he's going to keep the Senate. Again, I don't understand what the Democrats are thinking.
What the strategy is
I
here.
don't understand. They're literally like imploding Biden's election.
Yeah, I will say that I think that based off of
he raised the least last month of the top four, top five.
Yeah, I don't know if we have a rolling bet still going from the first Democratic debate, if we picked a winner yet or anything like that out of the 25 that there was. My money's now on Elizabeth Warren. I actually think that she's probably going to get the nomination, and that's just based off of like purely like standing back and trying to gauge what's going on in the country.
She wins the primary. We're winning Manhattan as a voting district.
I think that I'm not saying that she's going to win the election. I think she would lose the election, but I think that the way that things are lining up as of right now, I'd have to say she's a front runner. And I think that if you check in like Vegas or something, the odds she's moved up into the top odds, and I think that that's who we're going to see right now because I think Bernie's a little, and especially with Bernie's heart attack last week.
They didn't call it a heart attack.
No,
I was
they
like,
didn't.
no, it's a heart attack.
Yeah.
There's no way around that whatsoever. He cleared his schedule for like a month. There's no way he's going to come back from this.
Yeah.
What's really bad about it too.
Yeah.
Well, what's been really interesting is to see how the media has played favorites in who they are trying to keep in the race, right? So they've pretty much tried to push Tulsi Gabbard out, and she's kind of been fighting her way back in. Okay. Meanwhile, they've tried to make Cory Booker a thing, and he is at zero still.
Oh, Cory Booker is not a thing.
He's
Spartacus.
Because years ago they had branded him like the next Obama, right?
His head is too shiny.
They want this fairy tale to happen. Meanwhile, you've got Andrew Yang, who's actually apparently his fundraising numbers are through the roof. And is actually gaining some traction. In my opinion, maybe the only viable candidate truly on a national level.
They are keeping Tulsi down. They're keeping Tulsi down on Google. They're preventing her searches and things like that. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some stuff going on there.
I'm not going to say that it's a conspiracy or anything else. I do think
I haven't met a conspiracy that I won't entertain.
That's true. But I think what's happening now is they're seeing that the field is really whittling down pretty quickly. And with what's happening with Biden. Now, all of those, I think he raised the least compared to, and you would think if he was battling this legitimately, he would be able to turn it and get it as a fundraiser, but he hasn't been able to do that because he doesn't know how, and his team doesn't know how. And so it's so sad because it's almost like a repeat of the Jeb situation where the moment there's a swing, he doesn't know how to take it, and then we're done. Why would you open your campaign office in the back of an airport like loading dock? That was Jeb in Hillsborough County, and it was horrible. And you're like, no one thought this through, and he's not going to win. Again, 4 weeks later, he was out of the campaign. So I think what's going to happen, I agree. I think Warren is going to rise. Yeah, and you're going to.
Do you think that she's going to win now? Like both of you guys, do you think that she's probably the candidate, or do you guys think that someone else still pulls it out?
I would love for her to be the candidate. I think it's like her lies are so ridiculous.
Warren,
yeah.
Warren's lies are so ridiculous. Like
she's not authentic.
No,
she's
and
not
she
authentic.
tries to be authentic, and she doesn't come off at all.
If you listen to, like, Ben Shapiro did this, he pulled up like her quotes from her book in like 2003 or something that. Like, they're totally off. Like, she's actually not nearly as liberal as she's trying to come off. And I think that's what we're seeing here is that, like, Bernie Sanders has been Bernie Sanders for the past like 75 years, and like he's had the same thought processes and the same agenda. But Elizabeth Warren's like trying to kind of copy that, and I don't think it's authentic. I actually don't think she even believes a lot of the things that she's saying.
She doesn't. She does it because it's popular.
Because it's working.
It's popular.
Look where it's getting her.
Yeah, she became senator, and now that's all coming back because everyone has the internet and everyone can read, and now they can see. Well, you lied about your race. You lied about your ethnicity. You lied about being. And then the new one is that she's saying that she was fired from a teaching gig when you have a video interview of her saying, "Well, I got pregnant and I needed to get more education. I realized teaching wasn't for me." And these are just the stupidest lies. You're saying it because you want to be the victim, and by you doing that, you look like an elitist that is just pandering.
And she was getting paid like $500,000 a year from Harvard to teach. Like, I mean, like, don't come down and tell me you're the every woman,
Well, that's the biggest problem that both Warren and Sanders have, is the fact that both of them are quite literally in the 1%. And then here they are railing against the 1%, which feeds into the narrative that, again, socialism benefits those who are at the top and those who are in control and not everybody else down at the bottom. And so when you have someone who, again, is in the 1%, and basically both of your front runners are 1%ers, then it's really hard to convince the American people that this system is going to work in their favor.
And it's not because they are the 1% that's the problem, because Trump is a part of the 1%. There are other politicians that are also. It's that they rail so much against the 1%.
It's the hypocrisy.
It's the hypocrisy. Yeah. That's why you read the articles from Bloomberg and CNBC that Wall Street and powerhouses in LA and the New England are like, if she wins the primary, we're going to have to put our money somewhere else, and it's going to go to Trump, or they'll push it into the Republicans.
I think Wall Street came out and said, like, absolutely not.
No.
Like, they're really upset about if she gets anywhere close to the nomination. Like, they're going to line Trump's pockets.
There's an article,
anymore.
and I didn't even have to read the article. The article was like, Elizabeth Warren is getting her economic information by two French economists. And I was like, well, that explains everything. Why would I trust a French economist to run the American system when they can't even run their own system, let alone conquer a war? And moving on.
Speaking of people who can't run their own districts and want to tell everybody else how to live, did everybody else?
Wow, you're really trying hard at this segue thing.
I'm working on these segues, guys. Did anybody else see that we need to eat the babies clip with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez?
Talking about this?
Because it's hilarious.
Oh, I love it.
It's hilarious. Did we cue it up? Did we cue up the video? Okay.
I don't have the video, but we got a screenshot.
We have a screenshot.
All right, so we're not quite.
So I've not wasted my time and watched this.
Okay,
yet.
first off, you absolutely need to, and then second, we need to get advanced enough now that if we have an intro video, we should be able to play.
Well, we're gonna be able to play this in 6 months, so
okay.
it'll be fine.
But no, this is a hilarious video. It's probably a troll. Of course it's a troll. It's somebody going to one of her press conferences.
She's white. You could imagine.
You don't know.
It was a really well played troll.
It was a great. I've seen legitimate people like, no, we should eat babies.
But anyway, so yeah, if you haven't seen the video is of her saying to her face, like, getting up and getting a question time, like, I think we need to eat the babies. It'll start saving the population. And she's like a pretty good troll at, like, it's one of those ones. But when you watch the video, it's like, you kind of know it's a troll, but like, you have to double take whether or not like she's serious or she's possibly just like a crazy like left. And then the thing that's like been blowing everybody's minds is that she wasn't like, okay, ma'am, like, no, we're not going to eat babies. She was like,
she really thought about it.
She was like, it may not be the worst. It's like she like, and like, I don't know, she politician answered it after that and like skirted around it. But like, you would think that like, if that was said in front of you, you'd be like,
it's AOC.
That's
I'm sure someone on her team just jotted it down like on a little notebook.
We're gonna add it to the Green New Deal next time around.
There's a new pamphlet that's released to show that we've added a new segment, subsection F. And so I truly believe AOC doesn't have the doesn't have the ability to think on her feet when it comes to those things. I think she's.
I think she does. I think she's too woke. I think she wouldn't even shut down somebody like that. I think that she would entertain their
agree.
ideas.
I agree with you. Yeah, I'm almost positive. But
what was most amusing
concept.
What was most amusing was her trying to tiptoe after the fact in kind of explaining what happened, right? And so she's like, well, this might be someone with a mental condition, and we have to be careful and sympathetic and understanding.
And that's the problem
and
with
then
the
it's
wokeness.
But what was even more interesting than that is that once this LaRouche group came out and said that they were partially responsible, or they were responsible for it, which again, may or may not be the case. It's like she said, yeah, it turns out this was a Trump supporter, but let's make sure that this woman is getting the help she needs. It's like she still didn't have the confidence to come out and say, look, no, this is a horrible, horrible idea, because she knows that there are people who believe exactly what that girl said,
Well, because she's telling us not to
whether it's a troll or not.
Well, because she's telling us not to eat cows, she's telling us not to eat beef and stuff like that. So, it's not that far off from a narrative when you're telling people you have to completely change your lives and stuff like that, like population control and whatnot.
Because that's the problem. The most extremist part of these environmentalists, the most extremist part of their agenda is, as you just said, Jake, it's population control, and they want to look at limiting the number of people that you can have as children, and they're looking at limiting populations around the world, especially in developing countries, especially in countries that have large natural habitats, South America, Africa, Asia, those kind of places where, again, there's large natural habitats, and they're saying that they need to start controlling the population.
Guys, when you're that awake, you have to expect that awake.
What's woke?
It's awake, not woke.
It's woke.
Okay,
wake.
Look, Anibal knows exactly how we need to phrase everything and the language that needs to be used. Okay, we're just gonna go ahead.
Anyways, I think when you start reading their pamphlets and you start the idea of what they're seeking makes absolutely no sense. And when it comes to making no sense, we already have a demonstration what happens when you go to a one-child policy or you try to limit fertility in regards to that. You have the one-child policy in China, which has decimated an entire generation of their people. You can't, and as good as the Chinese are making things, they can't make 18-year-olds. And because you can't make 18-year-olds,
stepping back from my comment, because I really have some things to say. But anyway,
that vote and purchase items and contribute to the GDP of the economy.
If you also didn't see it, South Park had the best episode last week of the Chinese influence
You're
on this.
Still watching?
Of course
South
I am.
Park?
This might have been one of the best episodes they've had in a long time.
Let me tell you, especially with this whole NBA situation and the NBA executive speaking out against China,
happened, right?
And so South Park beautifully jumped on that whole situation on Twitter, and apparently this week's episode is going to be amazing.
Again, finishing that point, what's happening now in China?
I think Jake was making the point.
What's happening now?
I don't know how to
no,
point.
he doesn't have a point. He didn't do this kind of research. What's happening now is that you have 36 million men that cannot find wives. And what happens when you have 36 million men that can't do
robots.
anything?
And they're pumping them out. It's 2019 and they're all over the place. And we're so far off the topics for today.
Oh my God.
Where are we at? We're
Anyway.
supposed to be at. We're
No,
past
but look,
the babies now, right?
actually here, and I'll
Eating
kind of bring it
babies.
around this way. The truth of the matter is that
Land
the
the
people who are concerned about population control and the people who are worried about automation, like Andrew Yang, who wants to institute universal basic income, the truth is that globally, populations are in decline. And so when it comes to whether it's automation, whether it comes to, population control, all that's going to handle itself, trust me, because again, people are needing fewer children, simply because you don't need children for the same reasons.
Well, it
that
depends
they
on where
used
you
to.
are too, because in most of our what we consider like first world countries, like yes, the population's going down, but in countries like India and things like that, I mean, you're still looking at people having 9, 10, 11, 12 babies. I mean, it just depends on where in the world you are.
12 is a ridiculous number.
Well,
but that's not.
But it's not the entire world, but it is portions of it.
When it comes to what is a trait when it comes to first world nations is that the fertility comes down because it's no longer
it's a correlation.
It's no longer a benefit of having children. It's kind of a liability when you're having children. So that's why usually it's good to have like 2.6, 2.5 kids. I don't know how you get the 5.
It's 2.1, by the way.
It's a dog.
That's
The
what
5
it is.
is a dog.
That's what it is.
Yes, that's
It's a saying, but
yes.
the 0.5
2.5
is the
kids
dog.
with a white picket fence and everything else.
It's
You're young. You don't understand.
you know what?
So that's where normal populations head. That's what's happening, and so that's what happened in Japan and Korea and everything else. That the population numbers have gone down because they don't need as many kids. They don't just not many kids. However, the backside of that is if you're not bring yourself back. What's the phrase? When you don't
Refilling the
you have all
population.
the words.
duplicate yourself, basically having 2 kids or having 3 kids, then what happens is that now for every one Chinese boy, they are supporting 2 parents and then 4 grandparents.
Well,
And
no,
that's how
look at the
societies
biggest
collapse.
problem. The biggest problem is what a lot of countries, again, these very socialist democratic countries, to use their terms, the problem they're having is that they don't have enough people to fund these programs. And so year over year, they are continuing to lose funding for these programs because they don't have enough people paying into these programs. And so countries like Canada, who have a lot of government-based social programs,
North
are
America.
basically going deeper and deeper into bankruptcy or in the red because there aren't enough people contributing to the system to fund those programs.
Well, that's kind of where we're at now too. Like, I mean, if you look at our age
that's not
pyramid,
true.
well, no, but if you look at our age pyramid, it's
happening with Social
not
Security.
quite. It's
That's
not
the
quite,
very problem. That's the very problem happening with Social
Yeah,
Security.
it's not quite. Okay, I'll give it to you.
I actually have a picture of the U.S. pyramid. Do you want me to pull it up?
No, but I'm saying it's not quite. It's not
quite.
quite like that. But I'm saying though that there's where the boomers are at, where they're getting to the Social Security age. I mean, that's where it becomes
for all the mierda that we talk about millennials and Gen Xers.
You're gonna have to translate.
for all the crap that we talk about millennials, the millennials are doing one thing, and there's just enough millennials to keep the system growing and keeping Social Security and everything else perfectly fine. Give me 2 seconds, I'll be able to find the pyramid that shows.
Yeah,
that
but they're not
Americans
having kids.
That's not.
I have 2 sets of cousins right now who are basically have sworn to not have kids.
Yes,
and the
and-
reason they don't want to have kids partially is because they believe all this environmentalist nonsense, and the other part is that it's just not in the cards.
That's not what the
no.
data shows. The data shows that millennials weren't going to buy houses. Now they're moving to the suburbs.
We're gonna buy
And
houses. We're
millennials
gonna have
weren't gonna do
kids.
X, Y,
It's
Z, and
just
that's what's and
it's all probably 7 to 10 years delayed.
But
That's
it's
all.
not causing the demographic problem as other countries are having the issue.
Well, it's not going to be that.
No, it's not gonna be as drastic.
that hard of a crash, but there is.
No, there
we are
is-
experiencing
no.
population decline.
Yes,
because the average family isn't having as many kids as it used to. That's plain.
when it comes to
We're
traditional white Americans, there are less. Yes, I do agree. But with the number of immigrants that are coming into the country and the number of non-Anglo-Saxon families that have been developed, it is increasing. That's why we're at like 2.7 or 2.8.
No, but this is the thing. We're like, if
We
you
are
look
at the
if you
numbers where
look
we
at-
can replace ourselves in regards to the economic.
We're
force.
actually.
So where
we
your
are
children
in
at,
actually pretty
Anibal?
good shape.
Where my kids at? give me 18, give me 18
What?
months.
What?
Oh,
What?
Did your wife hear that?
You're about to get married.
Yeah, but we're not going to go into millennials and kids right now. It's just
Now it's
going
off
to-
topic. Now we can't talk about it.
We're happy with the dog right now. I'll
We're
tell you that.
happy.
I'm happy with the point.
We're happy.
I am thrilled
You're
with the point
speaking
5.
for her now?
Yeah, absolutely. We are thrilled with
0.5.
our 0.5 and the dog. And let me tell you something. Every millennial watching this is also very happy with their dog right now, and they're probably
But that's
gonna keep
not.
putting
But
that off
that's
for a little
not
while.
every. Okay, again, your bubbles are your bubbles. I know
No, it's a millennial
many
bubble.
millennials that were having kids when they were 18, 19, 20.
There are
and
some,
they were
of
getting
course.
married. But that's a lot. Again, the fact that we don't hear that
But
we talk about
statistically, that's
flyover
not the
country-
case, Anibal.
That's not the case. I
People that are
literally-
40,
I literally
people that are
have
under 40
the
are waiting a lot longer to have
this is the
kids,
20
and they're having fewer kids.
I'm
in
so
the
glad that you
process.
did the research of this ahead of time, right, Johnny? United States demographic of 2030 shows that there will be a very slight decline, and then it will increase once again. Why? Because people talking in regards to what they think millennials are going to do. Millennials are earning enough; they're getting into their prime in regards to their earning factors. We're paying enough taxes. God only knows that, and we're going to be able to support the Social Security situation. I get it. I believe it needs to be increased because we're no longer building. We're no longer building railroad tracks,
Farms.
and we're no longer farming. But it's to the point to where I know, but we're living longer, which requires that the Social Security numbers and those ages need to increase by that group, not our parents. But when we get to that point, it needs to increase.
All right. Well, enough about eating babies and just babies in general.
And that's why you do research.
That's not. I'm not. I think
the
it's just
talking points of the media heads.
No, I think it's just time to move on from the charts. I don't. We're good on population.
But Anibal, you and
I
I both know why he wants to move on from this topic.
Because he doesn't want to talk about kids.
No,
it's not about this show.
It's
not about news at all. It's
look. I don't think the people want to hear about when my decision to have children is going to be, which is not for a little while. Because again, I'm very happy with my dog right now, and I'm perfectly fine talking about that. I just
How
don't
many
think that
kids
makes
you
for a
want?
great podcast.
How many kids you want?
About 2. Replace myself. Right?
For us, it's like maybe 2, 3, and maybe foster one or adopt one. Definitely had that conversation already.
All right.
See, this is what people. I don't know if maybe they did tune in. Let us know in the comments. Did you tune in to figure out what our life plans were, or did you tune in for the news this year?
All right. So one of the other topics. Since I thought I was in control of this show, but apparently not, one of the other things we were going to talk about was the Democratic primary, but we already kind of started touching on that, being that we were talking about AOC. Again, the Democrats have yet to be able to produce a viable candidate. Biden is looking like he's in just as much trouble, I think, as Trump is, which, I mean, again, I don't see a major consequence coming out of this other than the fact that it's basically costing Biden the nomination. Warren is already taking front-runner status in a lot of states and raising a lot of money, and some of these other people towards the bottom, again, Gabbard, Yang, are starting to see some momentum in fundraising.
I think we kind of covered that earlier.
Yeah.
I think that what people really want to know, like if you live in Florida in our area as well, like what you want to know is like where do these candidates stand on Port Richey being dissolved? That is what that's the big question here.
Is that the big topic of the day?
That's the big topic of the day.
I
will say this is actually one of the most written in about topics since last week.
What?
I swear to you, people have been not. It's not just one person or something like that. Multiple people have messaged me about how we need to talk about Port Richey being dissolved.
We received a lot of call, and so
all right. Well, Mr. Research, give us the backstory on why we're here in the first place.
Yeah, research.
So. Port Richey's mayor is a thug in regards to like legit.
If you haven't been keeping up with Port Richey's mayor situation, over the past
I think
2
it's
years,
phenomenal. Who would have thought you couldn't? What was it? Who would have thought you needed a license to
practice medical?
No, to operate on people.
To operate in your own house.
That speaks very interesting of Port Richey residents that you would. No one would fact check to see if we are pushing all of Pasco
who would
actually
away.
check to make sure that their doctor is certified to be able to practice medicine, and then not even practice medicine, but like actually have doing surgery in their home. I don't know. I don't honestly.
Maybe it speaks to our healthcare system that people are just like, you know what? It's not that bad. We'll figure it out. Yeah, he's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
But he's also a pretty good guy. So why don't we make him mayor? So that's what's been going on in Port Richey.
You only need 14 votes to make someone mayor in that city.
If you guys don't know what we're talking about and joking around about, the city of Port Richey.
Nobody knows what we're talking about.
The city of Port Richey. This is big news. This is big news in the state of Florida.
Area, it is decent news.
They're trying to dissolve a city. I think that's kind of big news. I mean, whether it's a big city or a small city, it's still a city. And then it's a city of less than 3,000 people. But they are trying to dissolve. And this is a friend of the TBYR, Amber Mariano and Ed Hooper, both signed. What stage is it at right now? They just have.
I thought
proposed
it
it
still
basically.
Needs to get out of committee, but yeah.
But anyway, so they proposed to dissolve the city and give the jurisdiction to the Pasco County government and dissolve the city because the city's had so many problems. You've had 2 mayors in a row that have had ridiculous scandals, like national headline scandals, shooting at cops when they come to take them out of the house.
And then like witness tampering, what brought down the other mayor.
Yeah.
And then they're trying to figure out who the next mayor is. I don't think there is another mayor at the moment.
So if those are if the decisions that the mayor was making is I'm going to operate on people out of my house and I'm going to shoot at the cops afterwards, their finances are not in the best place. City management is probably not in the best place at all.
Allegedly, they're saying that they're okay financially. I haven't seen the books. I've requested them already. They have not come in. I would love to see that Excel spreadsheet because that's what it's on.
So
it's not even like 20.
So, but
columns.
but it comes to an interesting argument, more of a broader question though of if a county comes along and tries to dissolve a city due to financial problems or management problems or anything like that, whose jurisdiction is that in? And then there's
just falls back to the county.
No, I don't think it falls back there. I think it might be a conversation where is Newport Richey a city then?
So yeah, Newport Richey is a city, and then you have other cities around it. And from what I understand, that the other cities around it would not be able to like claim the land or annex it or anything like that until like I think 2024 or something. So it would be under the control of the county. And there's precedent here. There's something called Dillon's Rule that the state and the county are the ones that do give the city its ability to exist, and they also have the ability to take it away. And so I do think that it's a weird power struggle, right? Because I think us as Republicans, we want to see rule as close to locally governed as possible, but then obviously you have a 3,000 people town that elect a mayor that shoots at the cops, and it's like, well, what do we do now?
It's like, how many bad decisions does someone need to make before we take the keys away from grandma?
But it's not that different. It's not that different from the issue that they were having up in Starkey. Where I think it's Starkey, where everybody knows it's a speed trap basically between here and Jacksonville.
And there's one in South Carolina too, in Mount Pleasant. Do not go over that bridge.
Okay, let's calm down.
I am.
Well, anyways, the speed traps were so bad, and people were getting so many tickets that basically the legislature came in and dissolved the police because they realized, there was more than just speeding tickets going on. There was
it's like the one in
there.
where was it in Miami where they were buying speedboats with all the money? They were buying like speedboats and like Lamborghinis for the police to force.
It was Miami. It was just Miami.
It was another municipality.
That's like every other week in Miami.
Those were the items that were confiscated during the cocaine bust of that weekend. And so every week they had a new Lambo. But no, I agree with you that we should want power to be as local as possible. But I also agree that this is it's run amok. I do think the moment they crack the books, they'll see it's really nothing. The majority of the county, I think it's like 95 or 96% of that county is unincorporated. Yeah. So it's not like it's a big deal that can be absorbed.
Well, it's one of the things that one of the biggest points that Representative Mariano is making is that it's going to like decrease their taxes like 50% or something like that.
Yeah,
if they can
of
just
course, because they were funding a whole nother layer of city services.
A layer of city services that was probably using it for medical devices or arms.
When the previous mayor did his interview behind bars and in the jumpsuit, he was making comments like there's only like 47 police officers inside the city limits, which again is a ridiculous size of police force.
I think that they're all going to get absorbed too, as well as what they were said. Because the biggest concern is that these people aren't going to have jobs, and you're going to get rid of all of these different, if your firefighters, your police officers, and everything like that. But they're I think they're promised to be absorbed.
Given Pasco's, just exponential growth right now, the loss of jobs is going to be a wash. Those people are going to find other jobs. If you're a police officer or any kind of first responder, you're going to be able to get picked up by, again, either another city or a county service.
We'll draft you into Tampa.
That's not going to be an issue.
Oh, Tampa could annex.
We don't want.
No, we don't want
Richey.
Honestly,
Wesley Chapel and New Tampa bleed over is enough.
That's my gosh, they're like trailer parks bigger than that size of that city.
Is there anybody you don't want to offend?
No. I was thinking about like 3,000, less than 3,000 people. Yeah, there are some like parts of the villages that are that size. So like it's not that big of a city. There's like neighborhoods in like Cheval that are probably that size. Yeah. So I don't think it's necessary to be a city.
We're just dissolving an HOA.
Oh, our buddy.
That's really what's happening. We're just dissolving a really fancy HOA that got out of control.
Our buddy Hector, who always watches the show, just reminded. It's Waldo. Actually, it was the city of Waldo, which again is along this highway that is kind of a shortcut between. Let's say Gainesville, it takes you through from Tampa to Jacksonville. It's basically a cut through, so you don't have to go all the way up I-75 to I-10. But they were notoriously stopping people for speeding, and then all that money apparently was being used for all kinds of nonsense. And so the legislature came in a couple years ago and just did away with the police force completely.
So I'm mad about parking tickets. Anybody else?
Oh my god!
What else can we be mad about today? Did we have any other topics, or can I?
Oh my god! Yeah. So Pinellas. I believe half of the Pinellas County Commissioners want to put a tax referendum on the ballot to raise money for their school system.
Good. That's what they get.
No, I'm sorry.
Now
Transportation.
Now they can join Tampa and Hillsborough with our really high
8 cents,
8.5%.
Where does the half go? Where does
well, no, the half was for the teachers.
No. I know what
the
it's
half
for.
was for the teachers.
I don't know where the other half goes.
No, the 1% was for transportation.
A percentage at the back of it every time I have to pay taxes. They're not rounding down. They're rounding up.
This is what St. Pete wants. This is what St. Pete wants. This is what they get. This is who they elected. This is what they want. This is what they get. And that's what we have. That's the problem we have in Tampa too.
They want buses to go across the bridge.
They want bike lanes.
My favorite idea is the gondolas. The gondolas from downtown to the beach.
And this is my thing. Transportation is a necessity. We need to update our transportation. We need to think forward. But you're literally thinking 40 years ago when it comes to like trolleys and when it comes to buses and when it comes to like actual like pavement.
Hey, Disney's bringing back the gondolas.
Yeah, and it got stuck over the weekend, and like a few hundred people were able to get. If Disney can't get their ish together, what's going to happen with a government, with a local government?
I would totally pay more taxes for a monorail, though.
And that's the thing, though. You're not adding an extra lane. You're just adding more traffic when it comes to rapid buses. That's what you're doing. Put something that's elevated. Think outside the box.
Maybe if the buses went down like a Splash Mountain type thing, like I would get in it every day, and I would if like I could go from my place to like the airport from downtown.
I don't want to
and you can just like it's a ride, and you can just like
I don't want to go down this conversation because it makes us look so bad.
Yeah, but there are a lot of cities who are
that we won't even ride a bus. Like, when was the last time you rode a bus?
I rode a bus in Baltimore. Yeah, is that what is that? I'm not
from the airport. Or
no, I'm not elitist. I was on a bus in Baltimore this one time. But genuinely, like I mean,
that's like saying you went to New York and rode the subway.
Yeah. Like this doesn't count. But this is the thing. Like I don't.
Yeah, that's true. When was the last time you were on a bus in Tampa?
Oh, in Tampa?
Yes.
Never.
Yeah. Neither have I.
Well, I rode the trolley one time to see what it was like.
When it was free, and yeah, I did too.
And I was really mad about it. It was hot. They don't have air conditioning.
Annoying the fact that it's free, so everyone should go. The ridership is up. Yeah, because it's free. That's the reason why it's up. Because
homeless people.
Look, if we've learned anything from the scooters in downtown Tampa, is that if it's cool, people will use them. All right, I use it all the time now. I absolutely love the scooters. Honestly,
we're still all for no one here has been against
said
scooters.
anything about scooters.
No, but that's one of the solutions. That's one of the many solutions.
Hey, we have our
and
friends.
It's actually a private solution versus a public solution, which I like even better.
What is it? It's Oscar and Marco, right? That are big supporters of it. That are pushing it within their
Caesar.
Yeah,
I love it. I think the scooter's a great idea. And Caesar's told me already that they're making a big man scooter. I'm super excited for that. And when that happens, I'll join into this parade. But until then, God knows me and knows that gravity isn't my friend. So because of that, I'm not going to ride a scooter. However,
full disclosure, I probably shouldn't be riding one either, but I'm like right on the fence.
Hey, I actually know some people that have gotten pretty hurt.
I'm pretty happy.
I actually know some people that got pretty hurt on the scooter so far, which is a possibility.
And a lot of us know individual, and it's
kind of like a car crash.
But it does do what it's supposed to do, which is fill in that gap of that transportation need of that small, of that last 5 minutes or half a mile. That's a necessity. I want a legitimate discussion about something that's real that will get people from the airport to downtown Tampa to USF. I don't want a bus. That is stupid and a waste of money because you're doing nothing but just using old technology and putting shiny wheels on it and then just wasting.
And they're not even that shiny.
They're not even that shiny. And you're wasting $500 million. And you're telling me that this is the best thing that you could get?
I don't think that increasing the bus systems, especially when they don't manage the funding as they, again, we're talking about a public.
We used to talk a lot of ish about HART just a few years ago and how badly they were being mismanaged. Yeah. And now they're the precious thing right now. Yeah, because they're getting federal funding.
Which, by the way, I would love it for somebody from FDOT to come on here. I would love it for somebody from HART to come on here. I would love it for Representative Mariana if she wants to come on and talk about the.
We can definitely get Amber on here.
Anybody that wants to come on and defend any of these things that we sit around and just kind of complain about, we would love it if you come on and talk about it and give us the opposing view.
To kind of bring, again, in the topic of misused tax dollars, and one of the things that, again, I find really interesting about Aikens leaving, which tells me that there's a lot more to this than the political, I want to spend more time with my family. Yeah, superintendent of public schools. And I know
he wants to be with his family.
So
sure he does. Okay. when you just got basically a multi-million-dollar boost to your budget thanks to a tax referendum, why would you jump ship? Okay. And then when you talk about the frustration that comes from a lot of teachers when they see the misuse of money is when he's going on Twitter and bragging about the fact that he's buying electric cars for driver's ed program.
That was so stupid.
And so I think there's going to be a lot of red flags about him as we get closer to his departure or even once he's left. But I'm not buying the whole, that's never, any politician that's ever used that excuse, that's never been the case. They're always leaving because they're avoiding something.
And look at Urban Meyer. Look at him. I mean, no. People have not forgotten. People have not forgotten about him at all. First off, go Bulls. But anyway,
he's the poster child for that excuse.
He's exactly the poster child of the excuse. Oh, I have this condition or something like that. Like, I need to take some time off. 6 months later, better job in Ohio State. Yeah, get out of here. No one forgot. The state of Florida did not forget.
It's a mess. We all agree that transportation is going to be a huge issue in Tampa, and that's what's happening. But these stupid ideas of transportation, there are proposals of bringing down I-4.
You know what's actually
turning it into an avenue.
Let me play devil's advocate here. So then what do you deem a viable solution? Because honestly, I think automated buses, right? I think automated buses, that are integrated into the existing traffic infrastructure is a solution.
You need to figure out what the problem is and then figure out the solution for it. We know that we're not going to add more lanes onto Del Mabry. We all know we're not widening Kennedy, and we all know, so then you don't add more buses that are going to cause more of the problem.
Yeah.
And you can't stop people from driving their vehicles in and out of the city. So what do? You
can once the system's efficient, but the system has to be
You're
efficient.
Talking about something that's going to be maybe 20, maybe 30, maybe 5. Who knows when it comes to automation years down the line. So we know that the idea of everyone having a car and a car just sitting in their parking lot is not going to be a thing 20 years from now.
I think there's a lot of really smart things that we can do. There's a lot of smart proposals out there that revolve around like things like ride sharing, things like converting garages and converting parking lots and stuff like that.
Big solution situation.
So what I was going to say though is that like for Tampa specifically, I can tell you right now that they put out a proposal that looks like this is what they're going to go with about like the way they're going to try and fix malfunction junction is to like put a lane here, do this kind of stuff, but they're caving to all of these neighborhoods that are like, oh, we don't want to crush this one block because it's gonna separate this neighborhood from this neighborhood or something like that. And it's like, unfortunately, like the roads were made a long time ago, and they're extremely inefficient, because we didn't take out a block or two. And had we taken out a block or two and put the people that were there and relocate them to another area, and give them the fair value for their house. I mean, I'm not a huge fan
but
of
the
that
problem's
kind of thing,
not
we have a
efficiency.
regional problem here. No, but the
problem is not efficiency. The problem is volume.
But I complain about this all the time. We run 4 lanes of one of the busiest highways in the country, 4 lanes of 70 mile an hour traffic into 2 lanes that at a 90-degree angle,
so bad,
and then 1 lane at a 90-degrey angle, and then we put another lane in there at like a 100-degree angle that goes in like a loopy loop.
It's going to cost us $250 million to add an extra lane.
But we do all of it.
And that's not a solution.
But the thing is, like that, if that was fixed, the bottlenecks around our county were fixed, regionally fixed, then it would solve a lot of problems. Now, you're still going to get your backups in Brandon at the end of the Selman, right? You're going to get your backups up in Wesley Chapel right now at the end of the highway out there. But like the things that are like move people regionally, like if you drive down the highway at any time, like other than times where there's a lot of traffic, like it works really well.
Yeah. Other than the 2 hours of the day that you should not be on the highway as a Tampanian. And
it shouldn't be that bad because it should just be it flows, but it doesn't flow because we've got a horrible malfunction junction. It's got a name for a reason.
Hundreds of millions just to add 1 lane.
But if anybody could benefit from an elevated system, and I'm not going to say rail because it doesn't have to be rail, because I think there's other technology out there, is Pinellas County. Pinellas County doesn't have the room to grow 19 anymore. 275 is not going to grow anymore. Okay, and so they need an alternative option, especially in the northern part of the county where it is incredibly difficult to get around.
They do have different situation than Tampa. I will say it is definitely different. But I'm talking about like regional transportation here, going from both and back and forth. And we do need to do things like put the ferry out there. Like I don't know why we haven't been running a
but that ferry is a tourism attraction. That ferry is a farce.
But like guys going from McDill to Apollo Beach, like that's a no-brainer. Why are we not doing that?
Yeah, but make it a real ferry, not one of these little tourism ferries. It's got to be a ferry that can transport vehicles, that can transport people.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. But I mean, we should be utilizing smart transportation issues.
But this ferry that they had that was running from downtown Tampa to downtown St. Pete, that thing's a tourist attraction. The average person is not going to use that to commute.
That's the wrong direction. You're not. There's no one going that direction. Honestly, the Apollo Beach to South Tampa makes a lot more sense than that. And again, where does it come? We all know that this automation, this reliance on technology, is eventually going to cap over, and we'll have the situation where now we have almost all the vehicles having that kind of technology where we don't have the kind of bottlenecks as we have now because they're all communicating with each other. That's going to happen? So that's why I have an issue of us spending $500 million on something that is not going to be an issue. That's 10
also
years from now.
Kind of like what I was saying with the population issue. I think is going to be the same with the car issue. I think we're going to see a significant drop in car ownership as the technology, especially automated technology, becomes more publicly used. And so because there's already car sharing programs where you don't have to own a car. You could just pay monthly into a system and borrow an existing car among a number of people. I think we're going to see that. Like you said, Jake, ride sharing. I think there's going to be a lot of alternative options that for people who don't want to own a car, and it's going to be significantly cheaper to not own a car, and you're going to see more and more people working from home. And I think inevitably, I think we're going to see a huge decline in the volume of traffic simply because technology has replaced it in other ways.
You're going to find it very interesting to realize that in the future there'll actually be more car ownership than there is now. I honestly believe, yes, because the cost of vehicles will go down exponentially, because the cost of insurance will go down exponentially, because the number of car accidents are decreasing even further because
you talk to anybody under the age of 25 and they don't want to drive.
You talk to anyone under the age of 25 10 years ago, they weren't going to have babies and they weren't going to buy houses, but now they're having babies and
they don't want to drive. They don't want to drive. They're taking
say,
Uber everywhere.
What happens.
I will say people don't. If you live in bigger cities and you come here, you don't want to drive. I mean, like for me and like again, people I think that grew up in Florida and South Florida. I mean, it's like we want to drive cars. Like we want to drive cars. Like I don't see it from a group of people who grew up around, everybody drives cars. It's not like if you came from New York or something, you're like, why don't we have a subway here? It's like, they're going to complain. They're going to be like, I don't want to own a car. And it's like, well, then go back to New York. But
that's that population of those individuals. And again, we have a lot of transplant coming from the Northeast and from California that don't drive cars. Exactly. And that they don't have that kind of reality. And what's happening now is that, again, what everyone thought Uber and Lyft was going to revolutionize transportation. And it has.
It has.
But that only means that I've increased that usage as an option. That doesn't mean that I've taken my vehicle away because of it.
Some people have taken vehicles totally away, but I will say that what it does, what Uber does, especially when they do a better job at the pooling side of it, because right now they're just like toying with it a little bit and they're trying to perfect it a little bit better in some of the bigger cities, and then they can get 4 or 5 people in a bigger car and whatever on the same trip, and they're doing all these things to try and optimize that whole process, and eventually we're going to get there.
But those are people already used to that kind of transportation system where they're no longer they don't have a car to begin with.
Yeah.
So you're taking them out of the subways and putting them into vehicles, and that's a larger conversation. That
I think what
look, and there's no golden egg solution, right? Like there isn't one solution that's going to work. I mean, you look at Atlanta, you look at Boston, you look at New York, right? They all have rail, they all have or subway of some kind. They have 8-lane highways, as Vanessa pointed out in the comments section, and they still have traffic congestion.
Johnny, I think there is a simple solution here, and we'd solve all of it. It's eat all of the babies, and let's end it on that.
There we go.
That's not how any of this works.
All right, final words, Anibal.
I would like to thank my researchers for giving me the demographics of the 2030 U.S. population to shut everyone up in this channel. So
we'll pull up the other stuff that he was wrong about last week.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because last week was an issue, because not this week.
We need an ombudsman to.
How many Pinocchios did you get this week?
To fact check Anibal every week.
Yeah,
Why is it just me?
We do because you're the one that comes with facts.
Because I do the research.
Anyway, so no, my announcement for the end of the show right now is to say that this weekend, the Tampa Bay Young Republicans, we participated in the Grammatica Family Foundation kickball tournament. They do it once a year. I think it's the 7th year in a row now, so it was pretty special. So if you don't know what that organization is, Martine Grammatica, Bill Grammatica, the whole Grammatica family, they build homes for disabled veterans. They're custom build homes. They do like one or so every so many months, and it's really a great charity. And Tampa Bay Young Republicans did contribute over $1,000 to that event. And we actually had quite a good kickball team. I will tell you what, there were 32 teams in that, and we went 4-0 for a little while. And then we got down, we were top 5, and we ended up losing. There was a little bit of questionable calls on the field. But, I think that next year we're all in it to win it, and we would absolutely love it if anybody would help donate towards that cause. If again, Tampa Bay Young Republicans put up $1,000. If anybody else wants to contribute anything, please message us privately or comment. I don't care. If you want to donate and you want to help out with that, that is a great cause that we've been putting our extra funds from the last quarterly a couple weeks ago. So I appreciate everybody that did donate and everybody that was a sponsor at the last event, because that was an awesome weekend. And if you weren't out there, you definitely should have been.
Jake is the reason why they lost.
That is absolutely not. I was going for MVP. I mean, it was like we had a good team. We had a squad.
Was going for MVP.
We had a squad.
It's all right. I'll play next year and we'll win. So
that's it.
Thank you again to everybody for watching. We hope this has been an entertaining show for you. Please like, comment, share, especially this program. Next steps here are to actually have the audio version up on iTunes. So hopefully that'll be coming along soon. And I'm actually about to finish our website. And I did not forget our very special guest for next week is going to be Anna Paulina Luna.
Yay.
She is a congressional candidate for District 13 running against Charlie Crist. I think there's 4 or 5 candidates in that race on the Republican side right now, so definitely got to thin the herd there. But there are good people running. Let's just hope we get the best person in that seat, and Anna might be that person. She's awesome. She's well known all across social media as a conservative activist, and we're going to get to know her pretty well as she hangs out with us for the hour next week right here on the Yard Sign. So again, 7-ish Monday here on Facebook, YouTube, and again, if you have comments, suggestions, or any of that stuff, hit us up through social media. We check it constantly. Thank you so much to everybody for watching, and see you next week. Go Rays.
Feedback on that intro.
Yes. Speaking of which, here it goes.
Boom.
Ba, 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 ba.